I love scrappy things too. Like when you just, by the power of everybody's passion, you can make something come to life despite all odds.
Mhm.
So I'll always be very like, I cherish those videos.
Hi, Maris. How are you?
Well, how are you?
I am doing well. I appreciate you being so flexible and changed the time around.
No problem.
Awesome. Yeah, I had it's been a morning with stuff
Mhm.
moving around and yeah, and then I have to get my kid from school now and yeah, it's been a whole thing. But I appreciate you being so able to change that around and do this.
No worries.
Amazing. Well, I'm Adam and this is about you and your
Hi.
journey in
Hi,
music.
Adam.
Hi, hi. So this is about you and your journey in music and
Mm,
we'll talk about the EP and the film that came out. I had a chance to watch it. It's really, really cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I believe you directed it as well.
Co-directed, yes.
Co-directed.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, I got to work with the amazing Caro Knapp on it, and they're just really a great collaborator, but also a great friend. So I feel super grateful for how everything came together. Which is
Yeah, it
cool.
looks awesome. It looks really
Thank
cool.
you.
So, first off, where were you born and raised?
I'm from Missoula, Montana.
Okay.
So I was born and raised there, and yeah. And then I lived in New York. I kind of was like second raised, or I had like my second puberty in New York, because I moved there when I was 18 and I just worked for like 3 years and was making music and things, but not as like invested as I am now. And then yeah, now I'm in Los Angeles. So
Amazing. Okay.
yeah.
So, Montana, what was that like?
I get asked that a lot actually. Like people are always like, "Oh, you're from Montana. What is that like?" And I'm like, "Well, to me it's normal." So
Sure.
I don't know what is kind of not just the basic human experience, I guess, or in America, but
Well, you've lived in New
it's
York and LA. I'm sure it's got to be quite different than that.
that's true. That's true. It's great. It's people kind of everybody knows everybody sort of energy.
Hmm.
Um, people wave when you drive by them, things like that. That took me a second to get used to in LA or like just in bigger cities that are not really a thing. Um,
100%.
yeah.
I'm from San Diego and I moved to
Mm,
Nashville a little over 2 years ago, and
mm,
everybody's waving. I'm like,
yeah.
like at the
Yeah.
beginning, I was like, what the hell is going on?
No,
But
you
then
wave at somebody
it's
here, they're like, "What the fuck do you want?" Ooh, am I
right.
allowed?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, they're like, you wave at somebody here, they're like, "What the fuck do you want?" And it's like, "Nothing. I'm just like
Yeah, trying to
get
be
my human
friendly.
connection in." Yeah.
Yeah. But I had that same perspective when I came here. I'm like, what the hell are these people like? What are you trying to get my attention?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love it. I love it now. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, I just had this, you know, wrong perception of what was going on just because I wasn't used to it. But
Yeah.
that's cool.
It's definitely culturally very like Midwest, I would say, where I'm from.
Mm,
But it's technically Pacific Northwest.
sure.
Um, but definitely also more conscientious of the environment in so many ways. Just because like even in school, we're really taught like you respect the beautiful land that we have because we were given such a opportunity to live on a beautiful place.
Mm.
And here sometimes I get a little peeved. I would get peeved in New York too, just like litter bugs, dude.
Oh yeah.
Litter bugs. No, no, no. Um, so I guess those are probably like the biggest differences. My whole family's in Montana, so um the part that I miss the absolute most is just seeing my family.
Yeah,
But
100%. Yeah,
yeah.
from I've never been to Montana, but just I
Mhm.
actually interviewed somebody yesterday that was also from Montana, Butte,
What?
Montana. Yeah.
Oh, cute. Oh.
And he grew up without electricity.
Yeah,
So, and
Butte,
he like
Butte is a very interesting dynamic place.
okay, he was telling me about digging like outhouse holes and stuff. I'm like,
Mm.
yikes.
I'm from Missoula, so Missoula's like
Quite
different
different.
than Butte. Yeah, Missoula is
Uh,
a little hippie kind of. Missoula's like similar to Portland. Like people are always like, "Oh,
okay.
Portland's like a bigger Missoula."
Got
So,
it. But I mean,
mhm.
Montana itself is beautiful, so I could see why they would put an emphasis on, the environment, not littering and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, well, my dad is also like the radio show host of a hunting and fishing radio show called the Montana Outdoor Radio Show. He's the captain. Um,
Oh, that's amazing.
so I grew up with a lot of awareness of just, like even hunting in the way that my family has done it has always been about conservation, and like we eat what we hunt, and like
Uh-huh.
that kind of thing. Um, so sometimes I have had a few like moments here with like, you know, just cultural cognitive dissonance of like, yeah, I
Sure.
eat meat, you know, that kind of, but yeah, I guess that didn't really answer your question about what it's like to
No,
be
it
from.
did. 100% did. That's cool that your dad was on the radio. I was on the radio for over 15 years in San Diego and San Francisco.
Yeah, it's
So
a whole
I love
different
the
game.
radio.
Yeah. The radio is great. I actually, my first job was interning at the local radio station when I was like 14. I was being like paid under the table, but I would just do affidavits.
Oh, no way.
Everybody, yeah.
That's awesome.
No, it was
Was it
cool.
the music station or was it the one that your dad was on?
It was like it was just like they have just like a whole building that has every office is
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yo. So I would bounce around and I would do like some outdoor stuff, but then there's like the rock, you know, like I don't even remember the acronym right now, but like
Oh, like
KXL,
the call it, yeah, the call
yeah,
letters.
Hard Rock, Montana, you know.
Sure. Wow. Was it like through a bigger company or was it an independent station?
I'm not sure actually. I mean, I haven't worked there in 10 years, which is crazy to think about.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I don't remember.
Well, that's cool though. Still,
Yeah.
I mean, awesome. Well, dad was a DJ or a radio host. Do you come from a musical household at all? I mean, obviously that's a pretty creative gig.
It is. I in some senses I do. Both my parents didn't go to college because they didn't see the, well, A, they couldn't afford to, but B, they didn't see like the point in like taking out a loan and like doing the whole thing. And both of them are very, very hard workers, honestly kind of workaholics. So my mom's in real estate, but she used to be just like in advertising, and they actually met through radio. But I mean, everybody's pretty like, my dad is always making up new lyrics to songs. Like we talk about it all the time because when I was little, he would always be singing like silly songs where he'd remake the lyrics.
Oh, okay.
Mom is
Yeah,
very
he
musical.
like parodies of stuff that was on
Yes,
the radio. Okay, that's
yes.
funny.
And yeah, he loves words. So, and he can really turn on this like voice. So, that was always pretty goofy. But my mom actually has a beautiful singing voice, and she used to like sing in wedding bands to make money. And then, yeah, but she had to turn down like a choir scholarship because she just couldn't, it wasn't feasible financially for her to like leave her family and go to a new place to go to a college for a choir scholarship. So she just had to keep working and waitressing and all that kind of stuff. But everybody's pretty musical. Like my little brother is super musical. He has great rhythm, great pitch. But even though every time I try to make him harmonize with me, because I so badly like wanted to be in a family band, you know, that would be
Yeah.
shit. But like I'm the only person in my family that has pursued creativity in the way that like I'm like fully committed and like have moved to a new city. I'm the only person in my family that lives outside of Montana.
Mhm.
So um I feel like there's so much talent, and like I think my mom's really talented, my dad's talented, and my little brother's really talented, and my sister can sing too, but like nobody's pursued creativity in the way that I have, which makes me feel like very fortunate to be in a position where I can.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting that your mom was offered a scholarship, but it was for singing, right? You said she was
Mhm.
going to be in the choir or course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But it's like one of those things. I bet you now, even now, she's probably like stoked she didn't do it, right? I mean, what do you like? You're putting all this money into it, and it's like she still
Yeah.
did the wedding band, right? And now she does advertising real estate. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, now her constant thing now is, when are you gonna let me sing backup? I'm like, girl, get on stage. Like, let's go.
Oh, there you
You
go.
can
Put
do
her on
this.
one of your
We
records.
can do it. Yeah, I really want to. She gets kind of stage fright though, I think. One of the nice things about performing consistently is like you remember how much it really doesn't fucking matter. Like,
Right.
and how the what all that to say, it doesn't matter like how you're perceived necessarily, as long as you get on stage and you get in front of people and you like make everybody, as to the best of your ability, make everybody feel comfortable and excited and like they belong there, and like that is what actually matters. Whereas, you know, the things that we get in our head about of like, oh, they're going to think I'm stupid. They're going to think I'm this. It's like, that doesn't matter. What matters is just connecting to people. And so I think if she were to do it a few times, I think she'd snap back into it and be like, oh,
Yeah.
but
And chances are nobody gives a shit when they get home, right? Like if you
exactly.
shank a
People
note
think
or
about
whatever,
their
they're
own
like,
shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're all
People
about
are always thinking about
themselves,
their own
right?
shit.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
worried about like how they looked in front of the person next to them, not the fact that you
exactly.
missed a note or whatever.
Yeah.
So did you grow up then in the chorus choir or anything like that? Did you play piano as a kid? Like how did you start off?
Well, I've always been very like noisy and loving to make, you know, hitting stuff and making rhythm and like singing all the time. I would say probably just because like my parents sang a lot around the house. I started to really enjoy it. But I think when my parents got divorced, I was like 6,
Mhm.
and my dad like lived in the middle of nowhere, and my mom moved into the county. So like my dad lived outside of Missoula County, and my mom like moved into the county. So when I was at his house, I was often just like by myself, like wandering the big ass fields and singing to myself a lot. And my sister, I had like a CD player, and my sister would burn me CDs of like, it'd be crazy. It'd be Backstreet Boys and like the new Nicki Minaj, but then it'd be like, oh, there's like a random ABBA song and like that kind of thing. And so she'd burn me these CDs and I would just listen to them over and over and over again, almost like developing like a codependent relationship with music, where
Mhm.
it was like the only consistent thing that I kind of could turn to. And so that is when I think I was like, okay, this is going to be a very intense relationship that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. Um, and yeah, then as I started to get older, like I took guitar lessons a little bit, but it was weird because like my mom would be so frustrated because I'd be in guitar lessons, but then she'd show up and the guitar teacher was just playing and having me sing.
Oh, wow.
Like, so she was like, what the fuck? Like, you're supposed to be in
Yeah.
guitar lessons. So I started to learn a lot from YouTube. And you know, it's so easy to like go on what is it, guitartabs.com,
Yeah,
and like
Ultimate
look
Guitar
up
Tab or whatever
tabs.
this is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
find the shape and just practice from there. And then when I was like 13, I started being mentored by a jazz singer. So I would sing in jazz festivals and learn the standards, but also just developed a much healthier technique
Mhm.
because singing would hurt sometimes before. And then I was in choirs like throughout school, but I kind of was always more focused on writing and making my own music than I was like being in choir or being in musicals or anything. But I love that stuff.
Mhm.
So,
And you started writing your own music, what, around that time as well?
around 13, 14.
Okay.
My first song was like, well, I've always made things up. Like as I was saying, like my parents kind of did that. So I was always like just making up music and whatever. And the first time I ever heard myself back was my oldest sister, Kelsey. She was going to architecture school, so she got like the new MacBook, and
Oh.
or not MacBook, yeah, like it was a laptop. She brought it home, and she was like, "There's this crazy thing called GarageBand. Like, you know how you're always like walking around and singing? Like, we could record that and like make an actual song." And I still remember the lyrics to the song that I wrote because it was such a visceral moment of like, oh my God, like I love hearing myself back. And so the song was like, literally the lyrics were like, why would you do that? Why would you take my breath away? Like all this, you know, and I was probably at the time
Deep.
like 7 or 8, like just walking around like these fields and just singing. And so that was when I was like, oh, I definitely want to write. But then, you know, luckily I used to be pissed that my parents didn't make me a child star. Because I was like, well, I probably would have a little bit of a leg up if I would have started working when I was a child. But
Mhm.
now that I know people who have been child stars, I'm actually really grateful that I had like an incredibly normal childhood of like soccer and volleyball and go to school and like all that shit that's so fundamental to like just experience as a human
Right.
being, you know, and experience that community and the anonymity of being able to like move to New York City and like not know anybody. Um, but that's a whole other rant. All that to say, I think probably like the first genuine song I wrote was like 13, and it was like about Harry Styles, and
Nice.
yeah, that's my man.
There you go. And then you had an EP at like six. I read that you had the number one EP at Rockin' Rudy's.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal,
Oh
right?
yeah. Well, the funny thing about that is,
I don't
um,
even know what Rockin' Rudy's is. Can you give
Rock and
me a little
Rudy's is a
background?
legendary Missoula record store. So
Okay.
they've been
I
there
figured
forever.
it was probably a record store of some sort.
Yes. They have a ton of other cool stuff there. But they well, and actually it wasn't an EP. It was my or maybe it was the EP, but I made like, okay, this is a long story. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So in high school, I decided that I would never be a real artist if I didn't make my own album all by myself. And so I every single day would get home from school and like I wrote and recorded a terrible garage band album called Of the Sea, because that's what my name means in Latin. And like to give you some context about the pretentiousness of high school me, the first song was called Principium because that's Latin for the beginning. Like, come on. But I had this like high concept. I was like, this is the album I'm making. So I made that. And then I would spend my lunches in my graphic design room, like for the class, using their Photoshop to make the cover art. And like, then I got the template all right. And then I printed it out at school. Probably shouldn't have, but I did like, I think I made like 100 CDs by hand. So I would like burn them by hand. And then I would write like all the tracks, everything on the CD. And then I had these like printed out CD covers, and I ordered a bunch of clear cases from Amazon and I like manufactured them. And then I brought them to the record store, to Rockin' Rudy's. And I was like, here's my CD. Can you please sell it? And, then the community ended up showing up in a big way. And it was like, yeah, like number one or some shit. I was like,
That's awesome
by that.
though.
Yeah.
That's cool that they were like, sure, we'll entertain this little girl. Why not?
Oh yeah. And
And then you sell all of them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm from a family, I like, as I was saying, like of entrepreneurs, people that are just like, I'm gonna manhandle this shit into fruition. And so, sometimes that's what you got to do. I'm now in the phase of my life where I'm trying to let things come to me and not like, strong arm them into existence. But that's a little bit harder, I've actually found.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of manifesting them, you're just trying to have them arrive to
Yeah.
you.
Just like let things come to you and not, I mean, I'm a Virgo, so I'm a little bit of a control freak. And
Oh, didn't
so,
you would have just had a birthday then, right? Or about,
like
yeah.
I turned 24 on the 16th. So what is that? Like 3 days ago?
Oh, happy birthday. My birthday is on the 23rd, which is like the either depending on what
Nice.
calendar you're looking at, I'm either a Virgo
Yeah.
or a Libra.
You're a cusp.
I'm like right on the day.
Mhm. That's
Very cool.
crazy. Do you feel
Yeah.
that? Do you feel that divide?
100%.
Mm,
Yeah. I believe in all that stuff though. I'm way
yeah.
into like numerology and yeah.
No, my friend Izzy's doing my birth chart right now. Because I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
tell me what the fuck is wrong with me. No,
Right. Have
but
you ever done numerology, like putting your name into the numbers and the code, the cosmic code and all that stuff?
I haven't heard of numerology, but I'll
It's
look into it.
wild.
I love stuff like that. I love to try to find answers outside of
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's like,
numerology. Okay.
yeah, you like put your name in and each letter represents a number, and then you get like your life path number and your destiny number. It's
Whoa.
similar to astrology, but it's even more like somebody explained it as like astrology is like the like the little cousin, something along the lines of like numerology is like there, like more. I don't know. It's like it's supposed to be like the more concrete version, and then of a. I don't know, but it's
Okay.
really it.
I'll
Take
have
it
to
away
check that
as you
out.
will, but it's really yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because I
Um,
wonder, it's just based off your name
it's
or
based off
other stuff?
your name, your birthday. Yeah, it's
Okay.
basically your
Okay.
name and your birthday, and it goes into numbers and what. Yeah, and it'll give you this. It configures this life path number for you, and
Oh, cool.
it'll tell
Okay.
you everything about yourself. And you'll read it and be like, "Damn, this is pretty accurate."
Yeah. Damn.
um,
Okay.
but yeah, you should check it out. Numerology.
Oh,
But anyway, and happy birthday. And
happy
so
early birthday.
oh, thank you.
Mhm.
I forgot where we're going with this, but you had okay, you sold the CD, sold all
Mhm,
the copies, #1 CD,
mhm.
Rockin' Rudy's, and then that was at 16, and then you said you moved to New York at 18?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that. You just go there to
Ugh.
pursue, art?
Yeah, I had a lot of people saying like, okay, the two big music places are going to be LA and Nashville. And some people were like New York. But I went to New York for the first time ever when I was in eighth grade, and we did like you go to New York and you go to DC and you learn about the history of those places. And I just remember I was listening to the Arctic Monkeys album AM
Mhm.
as the bus like rolled into New York, and like the skyscrapers just kind of like almost they feel like they just appear. And I remember being like, oh God, I'm gonna live here. Like I have to live here. I love it so much here. And I really resonate with the pace and the directness of New York. And I also just love that like everybody's so busy building their own shit that they don't give a fuck about you. Like they don't like, I don't know, at least in my experience, I felt like everybody's focused so much on their own lives and their own work and what they want to do, that it's not like you have to be like self-conscious about failing or anything, because it's just everybody's failing upwards. And also like everybody you talk to has a job. And here it's a little more like you're like, oh, what do you do? Like, oh, I'm an artist. And it's like, that's the only thing you do? Like, that's fucking crazy because it's expensive out here.
I was
So
wondering if you like because I feel this is only my own experience. I feel like in LA is a lot more like they want to know what you do and who you are to see what you could do for them, so to speak.
yeah, I've definitely felt that. Or like you feel the value is in, or like the currency is in who you know and like what
Right.
you can do for somebody else.
Uh-huh. I
Which
remember I
makes me feel
interviewed
exhausted.
somebody that said that they were asked how many followers they had, like, in a studio or, like, session. It was like
Oh,
and this guy's in a huge band, and he's like, I don't know, 200,000.
yeah,
I mean, like,
that's so whack.
it's just
Oh,
bizarre. But
yeah.
yeah.
But
Okay, so
New
you
York
moved to
was
New
like,
York.
mhm.
Are you doing music in New York?
But I was also, I knew, and I remember like writing this in my diary because I keep like hella journals.
Mhm,
Um, and so I remember being like, I need experience, because like before I can write the things that I want to write, I need to like live in the real world, because Missoula, Montana is a fantastic place to grow up, and so many amazing people and so many things to do, but it was like so sheltered. And
mhm,
I just knew that if I wanted to be the kind of artist that I want to be, which is well-rounded and like, an observer of human beings of all different kinds of walks of life and all different kinds of everything. And so I was like, I need to I need to put myself out of my comfort zone and like be in a position where I can really learn. And
mhm.
so I went with music in mind, but I had no plan or like trajectory in mind of what was going to happen. And I wasn't really even like in a lot of writing sessions because there's not a ton of like producers in LA anymore.
In
Or
New York, you mean?
in New York, yes.
Yeah.
And so the pickings were kind of slim when it came to like getting sessions and things, at least especially for me at the time. And then I just went to work. Like I worked at a market research facility in Midtown, and I would have like crazy long ass shifts, but it was great because I was like, you know, some of the people I was working with were in their 50s and some were in their 20s and some were in their 30s. And it was like a really eclectic group of people to have as reference points as I like made my way through the city. And then yeah, just for a long time, I just kind of I worked and I made music, but I wasn't serious about it. I think partially because I was afraid of failure. Like kind of like once you realize how hard it is, you have a fantasy in your mind of like, oh, like this is an embarrassing story, but just goes to show how little context I had for the music industry. Like my mom and I got asked to audition for American Idol. And
Mhm,
so we like flew to New York. This was before I had moved there. We flew to New York, and did the producer rounds, made it through the producer rounds, so exciting, whatever. But while I was in New York with my mom at this hotel, my mom was like, you know what? We're going to take you to Columbia Records and you're going to sing for the people at Columbia Records and they're going to sign you. And I was like, okay, like 17,
Yeah.
sure.
Like, yeah,
And
that sounds like it works like
yeah,
that.
that's how that happens. Sure. And so we went to the concierge desk and my mom was like, can you please give us the directions to Columbia Records? We can't find it on our maps. And the guy was like, okay, sent us to a fucking abandoned building in the middle of nowhere. So unsafe, kind of mean, but it was really like, I don't know,
Eye-opening.
impactful. It was impactful because I will remember it forever, where I was like, oh, shit does not work like that. Like, you cannot just like go sing for somebody and they're gonna sign you. Like, that is so far out of how that actually happens. But I think back on that story, I'm like, it's so sweet and so naive and like so just like little Montana girls, like, let's go get you signed.
Yeah, it's like the movies or something, right? Like, all right,
Exactly.
we're gonna be discovered in the lobby of Columbia Records.
Yes. I'm gonna go in there unsolicited and sing.
Yeah, and just
And they're gonna be
sing,
like,
and they're gonna be like,
so
damn, this
stoked
girl's
about
a
it.
star.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I had a few experiences that made me feel like, okay, I need to learn more. And so worked and worked and worked, made music, played shows. And then eventually I got to a point where like the last show I did was March of 2020. I think it was March 10th. I opened Brooklyn Bowl for Macy Gray.
Oh, rad.
It
I
was
love the
super
Brooklyn
good.
Bowl here in Nashville. I haven't been to the New York, but
I haven't been to Nashville ever. So I'll have to
oh,
like, find a
yeah,
way to get down there. I know.
it is cool. There's a lot of songwriters here and
Yeah.
producers.
No, that's what I've heard. And I've heard it's actually not all country. Like,
Not
it's
I was
very
under the impression it
local.
was when I moved here, not
Mhm.
knowing much of anything. And yeah, there's definitely country roots here, but
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on though. That's cool.
a lot of pop and
Yeah, kind of
hip
a
hop,
smaller
whatever.
town vibe too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
100%. But all the labels are here, all the,
Mm.
publishers, everything. Wild.
Yeah, I'll have to come visit.
You
Um,
should. It's a great spot.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
so
but
you
yeah,
end up getting to LA because like you said you played the last show and was what COVID happened right after that, I would imagine.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, literally played that show, and I remember so vividly. I don't know what your recollection of this time period was, but I remember so vividly, like being like on the train and like people passing out, or like hearing about people passing out, or like at the time I was nannying full time. So I was like, the parents of the kids I nannied would come home and like they would like sanitize and like they
Yeah,
would
strip
like
everything
all their
off,
outer
run to the
clothes off.
shower. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was crazy. So I
Yeah.
remember being like, okay, something fucking weird is happening.
Leave your
And
Amazon
then
box outside for like 2 weeks. To like,
yeah,
yeah, like just the weirdest shit.
the weirdest shit, sanitizing all the groceries, like all these things. And so when COVID happened, I had to move back to Montana because I just could not, I couldn't afford to stay in New York and like
Uh-huh.
not have a job. And B, it was just getting so scary that like my mom was like, I just want all my babies in my house. So like all my siblings and I just kind of, I mean, they already lived in Montana, but um I moved back and was kind of, I remember at the time being so dramatic as I am about most things, but being like, oh my God, I've been castrated. Like I have to go back home to Montana. I've been making my own in New York for 3 years. I've been working, blah, blah, blah. But it ended up being, the reason I'm here today. Obviously, I think for most people with COVID, it was such a life-changing, there was so much loss and so much having to like rise from the ashes and like be like, okay, my entire life and so many people I loved were leveled to like nothing. So how
Mhm.
do I take all of this and like make something new? And yeah, then I started posting covers on Twitter again and just making like little songs again because I had nothing else to do. Also, I had COVID for 2 weeks when I was back in Montana. So I was like locked in my high school bedroom,
Oh
and
man.
mom would bring up dinner on a tray with a mask and gloves on, bring dinner up on a tray, set it outside my door and knock, and then I would go get my dinner. We would sit, she would like sit like 6 or 7 feet away on the ground, and I would sit on the ground and I would eat my dinner like so far away from her. And then she would bring up a bucket. I would put all my dishes in the bucket, and then she would like fill it with soapy water and like set it outside for like she like did not, we were like, what is this thing? Like nobody wants to get this.
Right. Nobody knew.
So crazy.
Right.
Nobody knew. And
That's wild.
yeah, but it resulted in I've written like so many songs that kind of ended up being on the EP were
Oh,
formed
okay.
from that circumstance. Like Goodbye Forever was literally because my boyfriend at the time and I had broken up over text message because he was so depressed and I was so depressed, and like he had to move back home and I had to move back home, and it was like so sad, and felt I was just struggling so much with like letting go of things and letting things just like accepting the end of things, because you really can't fight something like once it's truly over. And then posting covers again, and then my now manager hit me up and was like, do you have a manager? You should move to LA. And I was like,
Did they
shit.
find you from a cover? Or
From
how
Twitter, yeah. From
Oh.
I did a cover of Put Your Records On.
Oh, you did? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here
Okay.
we are.
And now
Like
you're in
over,
LA.
over 2 years later, which is crazy to think about.
And so with Gravity, you said some of those songs were written during that
Yes.
quarantine time period.
Yes.
And did you know, like, at what point did you realize, like, I'm gonna make this into a short film?
Well, I think so. I'm very like not I guess kind of go big or go home, but I like to start massive and then be like, okay, and then this is what we can do, and then this is what we can actually do, and this is what we can do. So I've always like part of the codependent relationship that I have with music has been I will listen to music and I can see like the movie in my head of like what the song is soundtracking. And
Mhm.
so with all of the songs on the EP, the first time I even heard or like as we were writing them, I remembered like, oh, I'm seeing the movie. And then it was like, okay, that's gonna go in the EP, that's gonna go in the EP, that's gonna go in the EP. And then I started working with Black Box, which the label is called Black House.
Mhm.
And with their team, and they were like, we really believe in this, visual expression. And so if you want to make a short film, like we will figure it out funding wise. And so then I had the opportunity to kind of do it. It was over a stretch of like, I think like a year and a half. The videos were shot because it was like each video had to be cleared by itself, budget wise and like direction wise.
Yeah. I was
So it
gonna
was,
say it's got some pretty heavy production value. I mean, there's a whole video that's all animated or all
yeah,
like animation.
yeah. So it was like quite the undertaking in a lot of ways. And also like my first time ever, I've always been like sticking a camera in my friend's hand and being like, hey, film me, and then I'll edit it, make a music video.
Mhm.
But this was the first time that I had ever worked with a budget like at all. And so I had so much to learn, which is why my co-director, Caro, was such a valuable resource in so many ways, because I just had so much to learn about what actually goes into making a music video, especially on the scale of like how I envisioned things. It's so much easier to like have the vision of it than it is to like execute it logistically. And so like with the Heavenly Bodies video, like I was like, I want to do a sci-fi. And that was actually the first video we shot out of the whole thing. And then
Oh wow.
yeah, the next year and a half was just like piecing things together and being like, okay, so we shot False Idol before we shot Crashland, but Crashland in the sequence of videos comes before False Idol. So it was like, okay, how do we tie these together? What do I need to remember for the continuity? How do we, and then we decided on the door, because I was like, oh, I can walk through the door. And then all of a sudden I'm like in this 80s fantasy of self-empowerment that's like, I'm going to put on a mustache and become my truest
Yeah,
self.
like a boxer.
Yeah, exactly. The hero's journey, the like rocky, yeah. So
Yeah.
um it was the craziest thing to get to make it, and it was so over such a long period of time that by the end I was like, oh my god, we did it. Like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I can't believe we fucking did it. And the last two videos were the like lowest budget that we had for them was the last, or the intro and the outro. So Out of My Depth and Goodbye Forever were like the last videos we shot, and we had like not a lot of budget for it. And so we just shot those in Caro's bathroom with like, we had Graham Byers, who's the DP, and then we had John Shigas, that was the gaffer, and like just everybody was doing a million different jobs, and we were crammed into this bathroom. And yeah, we ended up making it happen. But I love scrappy things too, like when you just, by the power of everybody's passion, you can make something come to life despite all odds. So I'll always be very like, I cherish those videos.
Yeah, no, it's a cool yeah, short film. And it's interesting that you said that the last two videos that you shot had the lowest budget, but you I wouldn't even thought of that aspect, because the way it starts and the way it finishes, it makes sense, right? I mean, I think the first video you're like in the bathtub,
Yes.
and then at the end you're in the mirror and you're pulling off all the stickers and the makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole thing ties together, and
Yes.
it just happened to be like, oh well, we'll just shoot the beginning and then in the bathroom, and but then the way the whole storyline comes together,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well,
really cool.
I kind of, thank you. I wanted to wrap it up in a way that mentally for me would allow me to move on from it.
Mhm.
And if I felt like the last music video was like hinting to something else coming, or like it felt incomplete,
Mhm.
that would bother me forever, especially because, you know, the visualizers for the next two songs are like, they're kind of a continuation in some ways. Like I directed those by myself, which it was like so much more learning to do still, which is whack as fuck, because I'm like, how much fucking more do I not know that I don't know? But it was just nice to put a pin in it, in the sense of like, I always come up with a lot of, not always, I come up with a lot of my ideas in the bath. And like I have my notebook, and I'll like put on a rom-com on my laptop or something. And then it's kind of just like a meditative place for me to just like scribble out any ideas that I'm having. And so a lot of the videos were, the concept for them was me like dancing around my room and seeing the movie, and then sitting in the bath and being like, okay, what are actually the like shots, and what is the logistics of this? Like, how do I figure this out? And so I wanted to create almost like a, like setting the scene, because Out of My Depth is like the prelude of Gravity, because it's like,
Mhm.
you know, it literally is so straightforward. Like, I'm 23, my stomach hurts, I have my dream, but what's it worth? And originally the lyrics were the capital, the bottom line, the stories that I can't find a way to tell, because so much of fighting for your art is like trying to prove the hypothetical value to people who will give you the money to help you execute it, and like the resources to help you execute it. And obviously, like as somebody who's a business person and a creative, it can be such a tricky dynamic to like find the balance of, and be okay with, and you know, just exist within the world of capitalism.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to kind of set that scene and set that stage, and then from there you enter the psychedelic, like heavenly bodies. You know, you get done with the bath, and then which the projection on the wall behind me, I edited that little like compilation together of every single other music video on the EP.
Oh, I have to check that. I didn't really notice it.
Yeah, well, it was kind of, it was supposed to be like I'm having the vision, you know, of like what it's
Ah,
gonna
yeah, yeah,
be.
yeah.
And then I get out of the bath, and then I go and you know, I fall asleep, and I wake up in heavenly bodies where I'm pursuing a comet, as like this otherworldly attraction of like something that if I were to actually touch it and hold it, it would burn me up and eat me alive. But like I want to, and it's called like pulling me out of bed, this mystic power. And then from that, I fucking go to Heavenly Bodies and Was It a Dream. I fall asleep on the beach, wake up as a cartoon, which was so cool because I sent them like hella, a lot of the like animation that you see in the back when there's cartoons going by. A lot of that is because I went through a period of time where I was like obsessed with public domain cartoons and like royalty free cartoons.
Yeah.
And so I went through like all these archives of like Gilligan's Island and Superman and like the original cartoons that are so fucking old that nobody can claim them as intellectual property anymore.
Mhm.
And so we used a lot of those in that, because I was like, it's ever since I was a little kid, I mention it in Out of My Depth, but like a routine of my little brothers and I is to watch cartoons. Like on a Saturday morning, we would get up and we would just sit with our cereal and just watch cartoons. And it was very special to see a little animated version of myself come to life.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like from there, waking up in New York City in Crashland, and then finally like destroying this comet that has been weighing on me this entire time, kind of as like, you know, just a metaphor of any kind of toxic relationship where it's like up and down and up and down all the time. And then False Idol is the finding the power in myself. And like sometimes I think it's very natural as human beings, like to pretend to be somebody else in order to figure out who you are. So that was like the mustache thing. I was also like, I want to be a sexy, hot girl in a leotard, but like, I can't just do that. Like something about it has to have a twist that's just like a little bit funny. And so that was where the mustaches came from. Cause I was like, I've always thought mustaches are fucking funny for no reason. And being like in a sexy outfit, and then you turn around and you have like a thick, like
mustache. Yeah.
like, that's awesome. And then, yeah, all of that led to Goodbye Forever, where I take everything off and then I get into the bath. Like at the end of the video, you hear the water running because I get into the bath and I start the whole process over again, you know, and then that way mentally for me, I'm like, okay, that is a time loop. That's like a moment in time that will continue to loop itself, and it will be different, you know, through different iterations of what I'm going through, what I'm writing about, whatever. But at least that moment in time is like its own thing. And now I can move on and think what's next.
I love it. Well, it was a great video, great
Thank you.
storyline. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this, Maris. This
Of
has been
course, yeah.
awesome.
Thank you for having me. I'm obviously I will take any opportunity to talk about my movie.
Yeah,
So,
no, 100%. This has
thank
been
you for having
great.
me.
Yeah, I have one more question for you before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
It's tough. I think something my dad always tells me, and this is what my advice would be. I feel like I probably have a lot that is just not coming to mind right now, but whenever I'm feeling woe is me and I call my dad and I'm like, this is such a hard lifestyle, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's always like, well, you didn't choose an easy job. And I think that's just important to remember, because if it feels hard, that's like probably right, because it is. But you just have to decide whether or not how hard it is worth the, like what you get from it. So that it is a hard job, and it's okay to be like sad that it's hard, but it's also like, if you're continually in that place, it's good to just be like, okay, I'm putting myself in this position. Do I want to be putting myself in this position? Like, should music or should art just be something that I do for fun? Should I not try to monetize it, because that's where things get tricky? Or if it's worth it, you know, if you really believe that you want a lifestyle that is making things for a living and like selling things for a living, because that's what being an artist is making the thing and then selling the thing, then continue, and it will be hard, but it will be worth it. And B, I would say, in moments that it feels really hard and it feels like maybe it's not worth it, reconnecting to what originally drew you to your craft is so important. So like the days that I'm like, nothing's working out and I'm so, you know, comparing myself to other people and I'm not doing all this and I'm blah, blah, blah. I will just like put on like a karaoke on YouTube and just sing it and not videotape it and not like make it a content thing, but just to remind myself of like why I even started doing this in the first place. So those would be my two things. Bringing it backwards.